Hey there, guys, and welcome back to the Travis and Damian podcast, episode 150. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and more. Today, we are talking about Mario and Luigi Brothership, Nintendo Switch 2, Spider-Man 4, Agatha All Along, Life is Strange Double Exposure, and more. But as usual, we will begin with our recent activities, and I will go first. Been a while since I've done that. So, First up, I just want to talk about Super Mario Party Jamboree because I played a lot of the other modes, and the main ones that I want to talk about is mainly Koopalathon. This is like the main online mode that a lot of people are playing. It's pretty much like a battle royale Mario Party. It's a lobby of 20, and everyone is playing the same set of mini games. And you advance around laps, and the first one to complete, I believe, 3 or 5 laps or something like that, they win. And it is very competitive. I mean, I was straight up getting dunked on like my first few games. I never placed higher than I think 9th or whatever out of the hour that I played of it. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. If that is a mode that you think that you would really enjoy, check it out. I mean, it does come with 3 months of free Switch Online, which is what I definitely use because I actually don't have Switch Online because I don't really play online games with my Switch, even though it is only $20 a year. But yeah, definitely recommend that part. Then I also tried out King Bowser's Keep. That's like the final board that you unlock. And I mean, it's pretty much what you would expect from like a Bowser board. He pretty much just adds more Bowser spaces in the middle, which you have to go through to get to the other parts of the board. And yeah, Super Mario Party Jamboree, I already did a whole review on it. It's good. It's not the best Mario Party game, but I think if you still want more Mario Party action because you played so much of Superstars, definitely check this one out. And then another game that I have been playing for a while, but I didn't get a chance to talk about it until much more recently, is REDACTED. I got early code for this, I believe, in the beginning of last month, October, and I played it for like 2 weeks before I did my video on it. And it's pretty much a roguelike action hack and slash made by the same people that made the Calypso Protocol. And it's really, really good. I mean, I'm not just saying that because I got free access or whatever to it. I honestly, genuinely think that is like a good game. It's only like $25 and it's available on pretty much every single platform. People are calling it, obviously a lot of roguelites are taking elements from Hades, like Ninja Turtles, Splinter Fate, and this game. Yeah. And it's pretty much that, but you have a melee weapon, a gun, and you slowly advance through that. It does get really difficult towards the end, especially the final boss. A lot of people are having trouble with that, which is understandable. I was definitely having trouble with that. And then the secret final run, which I won't spoil exactly what that entails. I'm just saying, just make sure you have everything you want to unlock because the game may not let you keep everything after that. So yeah, REDACTED, I think that if you are looking for a roguelite within 2024, you should definitely check that one out. And then the last thing that I did, which was last night, I went a trip to the city, which I don't normally do because the city is scary. And I went to the Limited Run Games X Shopify pop-up store. And this was a fun trip because, for one, my brother was like, you should just use the subway system. Once you get off a Penn, just take the subways to the pop-up. And I was like, all right, sure. Obviously, I don't really know how these subways work, but he was just like, just open Google Maps so that it'll straight up tell you which trains you need to take, which way it'll go, etc., etc. I was still fucking it up. Instead of going downtown, I went uptown, and the same thing going back. I almost messed it up going back home, but I corrected myself before I went on the subway going home. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot better than taking like a $30 Uber or whatever. So yeah. Anyways, about the actual experience. So I was invited to come out there and sort of just like check it out last night before they officially opened it to the public today. And yeah, I mean, it's like pretty much any other pop-up experience that I've went to. The other ones I've been to is like Hypeland. They've hosted some of them within New York City as well for their sort of clothing drops or whatever. And this one is them promoting some of their newer games that they put on pre-order, but now they're available with like alternative art and all of this other stuff like Toomba, Lollipop Chainsaw, and also Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge Ultimate Edition. And they had those for sale, but also they had like different covers for it. So it was like much more of like a incentive if you were like that kind of collector that wants like different cover arts and all this other stuff. But I already had those games pre-ordered on the Limited Run Games site, so there's no reason for me to get those. But the experience itself, it was pretty cool. I think that if you like limited run games and you are within the area, go check it out. If you're someone like me that lives on Long Island, I mean, it's up to you if you want to spend like that $30 train ticket to go over there take the subway, do whatever you got to do to also get there. I'm not sure if that's worth it for someone like me who isn't necessarily, because I didn't go in there looking to spend a lot of money, but obviously with pop-up shops like this, you get what you put into it. And obviously buying stuff is like part of that experience. You have to say that like that's all you could do there. Downstairs, they had like a demo area with like 6 games. One of them was Toomba, another one Arzest. They had this other game that they're developing. It's coming out soon. I think it's called Double Shake or something like that. It's like a PS1 N64 looking game. I played that for a little bit. I was honestly not that impressed with it. But then again, you know, when it comes to playing games at like demo kiosks like this, you can't really get like a really good feel about it because like there's like loud music and all of this other stuff, but it did seem like a pretty cool concept of a game. And then they also had like this, like, I guess like retro area where like it was like a couch and they had like Smash Bros, N64 set up there. Anyone could pick up and play. That was pretty cool. So yeah, you know, pop-up experiences are always going to be hit or miss depending on what you do there. Obviously, I did buy some stuff because I was like, well, I might as well do it while I'm here. I've been wanting to get these games for a while, and I got the first 3 Shantae games. I was going to get all 5 of them, but my girlfriend was like limited to 100 because I was legit standing in front of the Shantae games for like a while. And I was like, I want to buy these, but I'm not sure if I could justify spending $175 on them. And she was like, just spend 100. Because like, I was like, okay, yeah, like just convince me to either spend money or not spend money. That's literally what I told her. I was like, tell me what to do. So she was like, I just spend 100 and this is what I got. But because I was also part of like press, they also gave me like a really good goodie bag. So first up is this $100, I believe this is like $100. It's like a Sega Astro City Mini. It's like a mini arcade machine thing.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah, you could also hook it up with like HDMI and whatnot. So I don't know any of these games, but I mean, you know, it's like arcade shoot 'em ups and whatnot. So definitely gonna have to plug that in and try that out one day. Then they also had some other like little goodies as well. So they had their own like trading card packs or whatever. So they gave me 4 of these along with a Shantae card as well. Obviously have not opened these. And then to store your cards in case you don't have a binder at home, they gave you a little limited run games, like 4 pocket pages one. So definitely gonna have to open that. And then the big one is that they gave you a free game. So
really, what the hell?
Yes, a free game. And they're all random. At first he was like, we got RSS in there, and I was like, I already have that. I'm not lying. I do have RSS. I bought this at Too Many Games, and I also have it digitally on the PS5, which I probably should have bought it on the Switch when I bought it at Too Many Games. But anyways, so I was like, I already have that. And then he was like, let me go and grab another one for you. And he was like, how's Persona 3 Portable? And I was like, okay, well,
hey, Fogger.
Look, you know, I wasn't going to buy these Persona games because I definitely want to get Reload and also...
Yeah, you probably should play Reload,
Yeah, you know, like play those remakes. But I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to complain. So, you know, now if I do want to play Persona 3 Portable, I have it because I do have Golden on my Vita. So I pretty much, you know, have a way to play those games now. So that's pretty cool. You know, definitely got
That's pretty sick.
I
paid like $50 for that. Too many games.
I think it was like 35. But yeah, you know,
was like
something
35,
like that.
Yeah.
And then when I bought the Shantae games, they gave you 2 tokens for like a little, for a claw machine with like plushies in there. They get 2 of them. First one, I got a Glover plush. So I was like, Glover, okay.
Yeah, that's sick.
You know what? That's pretty cool. The second one, I almost got it, but I fucked up. I don't even know what character it was, but yeah, I got a Glover plush. So yeah, like I said, pop-up experiences, you get what you sort of get out of it. You know, you do have to spend money to like get like a lot of enjoyment from it. But you know, it's just how pop-ups go. So yeah, I definitely had a great time there, not just because I got free Persona 3 Portable and this mini arcade machine. I genuinely think that they put on a pretty good pop-up experience, and if you like limited run games, you could definitely check them out if you are within the area.
Pretty cool. How long is that going to be up for?
I think it's going on today, Friday, and then I think Saturday, maybe Sunday. I don't think Sunday, though. I might be wrong on that, but it's going on for like the next 2 days. You know, pop-ups are always just like limited things. So, you know, if you're listening to this like a week from now, it's not happening anymore. But hey, if this one does well, there might be more coming to a city near you or maybe another convention pop-up, whatever, you know, we'll see.
All right. So for what I've been doing, you know, going from one Atlas thing to another when you're talking about Persona. So I've been playing Metaphor, you know, the game's long as shit. I'm like 55 hours into the game now. I believe I'm up to like the third act now, so I should be almost done. I think it's another like 10ish hours or something, maybe a bit more. But the game is great. Like, I just did a bunch of big story moments. Like, people were keep saying like, once you're in the September portion of the game, it gets insane, and it did story wise. And these characters might be some of the best they've written in like any Atlas game. It's like very, very good. So been loving where the story's been going. Obviously, like I said, well, the gameplay stuff, still loving that as well. And I'm excited to see how the game all ends, and I can give like my final thoughts. But for a while I was debating like this and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth were kind of like neck and neck for my game of the year. But I think this game is going to edge just slightly above it, because there's still some things I wasn't a big fan of Rebirth for, like, mainly like the ending and how that game was written towards the end. I think if this game ends strong, it could definitely become like my game of the year, because it's very good. So very good game. Can't wait to hopefully get my final thoughts on it next podcast. I'm going to try and no life it the next 2 weeks so I can finish it. But yeah, game is great. Next, new season of Fortnite came out.
Yep, Fortnite.
Chapter, like the chapter 2 remix or whatever. So obviously it's the chapter 2 map, but they added some new stuff. You got Snoop Dogg in there and Eminem and the Ice Spice, I think. They reworked some of the in-game system. So now if you buy like the music pass, it just levels up with XP now. So you don't necessarily have to play Festival Royale or anything. Same thing goes with the Lego pass. Like, you don't need to actually play Lego to get the items from that. I think that's a pretty good change. Also, everything you do just gives you XP in general, so it doesn't feel like it's wasting as much time. Like, you still play Festival Royale and get a bunch of XP for the music pass and the regular battle pass. So I think that's a good change. They changed the locker UI, so you can have like a full preset of everything now. So like you don't have to change your weapon wraps or your car. Like, it can all be a part of one loadout now. So that's pretty good as well. And honestly, I think the game is fun. I think the remix stuff is nice. I don't really have a lot of nostalgia for like the older chapters, because I wasn't really playing Fortnite. Like, I played chapter 1, I get season 0, whatever it was called, when it first came out, because I was just checking out the game. I didn't really care. I didn't start caring until like chapter 4 or whatever. So I don't have a lot of like nostalgia for it, but I think them remixing it, adding some like new weapons, adding like Snoop Dogg and stuff, like I think that stuff is more fun for people like me. Yeah. So it's been a good time. I've been enjoying it more than I thought I would. So
yeah, the new Fortnite.
I think. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I mean, new Fortnite season is pretty much Fortnite. Going into Snoop Dogg's house and sort of seeing him transform into like his cartoon version of the dog himself was very funny. But yeah, it's just more Fortnite. That's pretty much what I've been getting from it.
Yeah, I do like the chapter 2 map a little better, just because there's a bit more natural cover, because the chapter 1 map kind of felt awful to play in Zero build, because it's like no natural cover anywhere. So it feels a bit better to play as a Zero build player like me. Last thing I played before we get into the Brothership when we talk about that stuff. Mm-hmm. But Monster Hunter Wilds, I played the beta for it. This came out like a week ago. I think PlayStation players were able to play it before PC players. PC players have not been having as much of a good time, because there was a lot of Twitter posts about everything being polygons and shit. It was pretty bad for them. Apparently this is an older build of the game. That's what Capcom is saying. So hopefully performance gets a bit better. But on PlayStation, on PS5, it ran okay. It's a bit blurry, and I'm pretty sure it's not a stable frame rate, but it mostly plays fine. And during the I'm a pretty big Monster Hunter fan, but I wasn't like too excited for Wilds. Like I was gonna get it because it's Monster Hunter, but all the things they were showing about it wasn't really exciting me too much. I've been hearing like you really need to get like a hands-on experience to really understand what this game is about. So I played around 2 hours of this beta. The first hour I wasn't too impressed, because it was just like some story stuff. I think they try to go a bit harder on the story this time. Like, like dialogue options and shit. And I'm just like, I was just skipping all of it because I was going to play it anyway when it comes out. And also like Monster Hunter stories usually aren't anything special, but I guess we'll see once the actual game comes out. But, it was a pretty linear experience, basically the same thing you've been playing for, Monster Hunter Rise, Monster Hunter World, like, same thing, beat the monster, whatever. It wasn't until I actually got into the actual, I guess, open area where the game really started to shine. So the game doesn't really have the traditional, you're in a hub, you pick a quest, and then you go kill that monster, you come back. Everything is kind of like seamless now. So you have like a little pop-up camps everywhere. So you could take any quest anywhere, or you can make dynamic quests. So if you open up your map and you select a monster roaming around, that's now a quest, and you could just go kill that monster. And everything is very seamless. Like, you select the monster, you go to the monster, you kill it, you carve it up, you could like do your weapon smithing. Well, I don't know about that yet, because you couldn't do that in this beta build, but I'm assuming you could do all your weapon crafting and stuff all in like the same map. Like, there's no load time, so you kind of just like go in, go out, all seamless experience. And I think experiencing that firsthand does feel very cool. Also, like the monsters just interact with their environments a lot more. It's a lot more dynamic. Now there's like herds of monsters together, so you have to like sort of like separate the herd to attack the alpha. Like all of that stuff really does connect together, and I feel like trailers don't really sell that as much as you actually playing it. So I understand what like gaming press was saying, was like you kind of have to experience how the world breathes to really fully experience this new like system of Monster Hunter Wild. So now that I actually played it, I do think it is really cool, and I think it does a better job than Monster Hunter World did, because you know, in that game you had to run from the monster a lot, or you had to do like a bunch of other shit that wasn't that big of a fan of. This game, like the world is bigger, but you also have access to like a little mount, so you could ride on this little like bird thing, and it could just automatically take you to the monster. So it has that same scale the Monster Hunter World was going for, but it doesn't really break the pace, I feel, because you can just ride on this bird and you just go right to the monster, which is what I like. I like to just kill the monsters. I don't like to waste too much time with other stuff, but I think this game hits a great middle ground between like newer Monster Hunter stuff and like the older Monster Hunter stuff of just killing the monster and exploring the world, and I think it's pretty good. So hopefully Capcom can iron out all the performance issues, but right now game feels good, and I'm very excited for it to come out, I believe in like end of February. So yeah, hopefully they can fix the PC port, because the PC port looks pretty awful. So yeah.
All right, so now let's get into the general news of things, mostly Nintendo stuff. But first, let's talk about the one bad PlayStation news, is that Firewalk Studios has closed. Concord is effectively dead alongside with it. So yeah, I mean, this was going to be inevitable just based on how Concord performed, which was legit bottom of the barrel, unfortunately. But I think it's more in line with Sony's fault, I would say. I don't think any of the developers really had a sort of say in sort of, you know, how the game sort of was released and sort of the press going into it and all that other stuff. You know, I think the people that worked on the game, I feel so bad for them, because it's like they worked on this for years and years and years, and we don't know exactly how much money was thrown around on it. You know, we always see these headlines about $100 million, $200 million, whatever, you know, however much money they used to make this game, it's going to hit Sony a big ton. Obviously, they just launched the PS5 Pro or whatever, so, you know, that might recover some money there with those people that are upgrading. But yeah, you know, it sucks that they were not able to get this game off the ground, and sort of how it was shown to the press and everything like that. You know, it sucks at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, this game has just been so like doomed to fail ever since they first showed it that it doesn't really surprise me. I wasn't expecting the whole studio to close down at first, but after more time passed on, I'm like, I think Sony just saw that it just couldn't salvage anything from Firewalk or Concord as an IP, because, you know, it wasn't even like anyone liked the IP, right? Like it felt so unsalvageable, which is sad, but like, you know, it's just the truth. Like the moment they showed this game, no one was excited for it. You know, everyone was excited for Astrobot, you know,
yes.
Like they saw this cute, colorful platformer compared to and they spent like so long on Concord. They spent like 10 minutes on that direct on Concord. And one little trailer for Astrobot got more people excited for that. So I think that's just indicative of the whole like Concord situation going forward. Like every beta they released, every new trailer they released, like just no one really cared. It just seemed very doomed to fail from the very start, which again is sad, because, you know, they spent like 8 years making this thing, or from what they said, you know, 200 million, 400 million. I don't even know what the price point, like you said, is anymore. But it still sucks that, you know, devs like this have to, you know, go down with the ship, because, you know, Sony saw like this vision and I guess it didn't work out, and then all this stuff happens. And I do wonder if Sony is going to continue with the live service push due to such an awful failure, because they kind of had like two sides of the same coin this year. You know, Helldivers was a huge success. Like that was like, they launched it, the game went viral and went crazy, everyone loved it. And then in the same year, they released probably the biggest live service bomb I've like ever seen. So yeah, I wonder what Sony is going to take from this. Like, I don't know if they're going to take it more like, you know, you win some, you lose some, or they're going to just kind of back off on the live service stuff. Again, I personally wish they would back off a bit on the live service stuff, because, you know, I think their strengths has always been in the single player IPs. You know, let their first party developers keep making these beautiful single player experiences and stuff. You know, that's why I like Sony games to begin with. I do agree that they should be making some new genre. You know, I don't want everything to be a cinematic third person like action adventure game, right? Like, you know, that's a big complaint from Sony. But I think going this live service direction has proven to be like not super great, mostly because I feel like it's been really hurting the PlayStation 5's library in general. Like we basically haven't gone too much this whole middle part of the generation. So I don't know. I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see how like the Playfair Games project goes. I forgot what they're doing, like that other live service game they're doing, and a Marathon as well. Like we're gonna see how that game does. But I guess we'll see what happens after those two games, because Concord was a absolute disaster. So yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to switch up their strategy in terms of just like what kind of games they should be making, right? Because obviously, like you said, everyone was excited about Astrobot, and now that it's come out, I think today the headline was that it sold like a pretty good amount of copies. I think like 3 mil or something like that. So Astrobot is doing well, and that game took not even that long to really make, from sort of ideas to development to the final product. And yeah, I'm sure that Sony is going to go back to the drawing board and be like, all right, what kind of games do we want to make? What kind of games will be profitable for us in the long run? And I think their live service push should 100% stop here. Obviously, Concord was like a big red flag for them. I think they got really lucky with Helldivers too, because obviously that came out of nowhere. Literally, no one was really looking forward to that game, and then it came out, and I was like, oh shit, like this is like a really big sort of like PvE live service game that people are really getting down with, across PlayStation and PC. And yeah, you know what? You got that. Stick with that. I think that if they want to dive into other live service things, I think they should just support the ones that like already exist, right? Like, just like give them like exclusive things, like if you do this on PlayStation, give us like free access for like 2 weeks or something like that, or whatever, something like that. Nothing too crazy, but also don't like dip your toes in too deep by making a whole other project like they were doing before. They were trying to get a Spider-Man one off the ground, a Last of Us one off the ground, and now it's just like, yeah, live service games, people only have so much time for so many, and to sort of get into that now is a little too late, I feel.
Yeah. Also, it just becomes like a money sink. Like I really feel like what it should take out of Astrobot is just having smaller teams making more experimental games, or like, just newer genres, or explore genres you haven't touched on before. And, you're probably going to make more of a profit than sinking like hundreds of millions of dollars into this. Astrobot's cost probably didn't cost as much, nearly as much as Concord did. So I feel like the profit margin there is like a bit better. But hopefully, I don't know what Sony's gonna pick like from this. Like I don't know if they're gonna go for the more live service stuff, because that's what the executives want, or they're gonna go for that more double A approach, like maybe have smaller teams and stuff. Because I think that's what Sony really needs at this moment. Like they need smaller teams to make smaller games in between their larger, bigger like AAA stuff, like Spider-Man's and Ghost of Tsushima's and stuff like that. So I guess we'll see what they pick up from this. But yeah, Concord, you're very lucky to have that physical copy just sitting there now. Part of gaming history, unfortunately, for right there. But hopefully everyone at Firewalk is able to find something after this. So yeah. Alrighty, so next we have a ton of Nintendo stuff. So first being a random announcement. Everyone's going bloodthirsty for the Switch 2. We want to listen to the Switch 2 stuff, but Nintendo was like, no, here's Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. And I mean, I'm happy about that. So Xenoblade X, it's coming out like, I believe the end of March of next year. Yeah, like March 30th. March 20th, yes. March 20th of next year. And, Xenoblade X, I really do enjoy that game. It's probably my least favorite of the Xenoblade games, but, that's not saying a lot, because, this game is like an 8 and the other games are like 10s to me. So, it just takes the series in a different direction. The game is a lot more of acts more like a Western RPG than a JRPG. You create your own character. The art style is a lot more grounded. You got mechs and stuff, but, it still is a more grounded experience. And I thought the story wasn't as strong either in this game, but I still really enjoyed this game a lot. This was back in 2015 when I first played it. I was still getting really into JRPGs for the first time. So, but that was back then. I didn't really know what I was doing in terms of battle systems, or, doing every side quest like I do now. So I'm very excited to re-jump into this game, because, I put 70 hours into the Wii U version. So I'm very excited to see how much more time I could put into this one. Because I do want to experience everything I missed out. Because, there's a lot of things I just still don't understand about the game. I don't fucking know how overdriving works. I didn't really know how, skells really worked either. So I'm very excited to actually jump back into it now that I'm, I've played a lot more JRPGs since then. But the game is still really good. And I'm really happy it got out of Wii U jail for so long. People were begging for this game to come out of Wii U jail. And me too. I really want to experience Xenoblade X again. So I'm happy Monolith was able to do it. They're redoing a lot of the facial features. Like Elma and Lynn look a lot different. Their faces look a lot better compared to the original game. They just have a more anime look to them, which I feel looks a lot better than the weird realistic look they were going for the Wii U version. So I like the more anime faces. I think there's supposed to be more story epilogue stuff, since the game ends in a big cliffhanger. So I don't know if they're gonna either maybe lead that to an X2 or kind of tie it into the overall Xenoblade Chronicles story or what. But I am excited to see the additional story elements to it, since, I think the story of Xenoblade X is definitely the weakest part of the game, but the exploration is still top notch for this type of game. Exploring things in a giant mech, which is the Skells I was talking about, that's still amazing in this game. The scale of the world is probably the best of all the Xenoblade games. So I'm definitely excited to play this, and I'm excited for a new generation of fans of Xenoblade to be able to try it, since, it was on the fucking Wii U, and not a lot of people have the Wii U. So also the whole Xenoblade series is on Switch now, which is amazing. So definitely excited for this. Definitely going to play it right when it comes out. No surprise there. So yeah.
Yeah, it's great to see that now the entire Xenoblade Chronicles sort of series is now on the Switch. So if you want to get into the series like me, now I could just buy them all on here and not have to worry about switching between consoles or whatever. Because obviously, the first Xenoblade was on the Wii, and then the new 3DS, and then now on the Switch. So it is very, very cool to see that they are sort of migrating everything over to here, especially because now we're getting to the next bit of news here. We got the Switch 2 has been confirmed that it will be backwards compatible. So pretty much they will give us more information on that soon, but you can expect pretty much every single first party Nintendo Switch game will be playable on the Switch 2. So that is very exciting. So if they make any more Xenoblade games for the Switch 2, which they probably will, now you can play them all on there. So I think that is obviously like the correct move, instead of them making a whole new console and not have it be backwards compatible or anything like that. Obviously, people have been calling this new Nintendo console Switch 2 forever, so it would be baffling for them to, switch to cartridges and then sort of ditch that altogether, because this has worked for them so well, right? It is very surprising for a current console to not use things like 4K Blu-rays or whatever, right? And they need cartridges to make it so, they could still have it be like that portable but also home console hybrid. So I'm glad to see that Nintendo has at least confirmed something related to the new console, even though we're not going to hear anything about it until going into next year.
Yeah, I'm happy we finally got rid of the notion that backwards compatibility is a waste of time, because I remember during that PS4 Xbox One generation, they were very against backwards compatible anything. So I'm happy we've stepped back to backwards compatibility is very important, at least to me. You have such a strong library of games with the Nintendo Switch. Same thing with the PS5. The PS4 had such a strong library that it just feels like a big bonus. If you never bought a PS4 and you're buying a PS5, you still have all these games you can play right on that system. Same thing with the Switch 2. Even if the Switch 2 has a really awful launch setup, at least you have all these amazing Switch games you could play if you never owned a Switch, right? So backwards compatibility will always be such a major sell for a console for me at this point. Every console should aim for at least having backwards compatibility for a generation behind. Honestly, it should be all generations of consoles at this point should have backwards compatibility, because it to me it's very important and very convenient. So I'm happy Nintendo is going that way. Usually they're pretty good with backwards compatibility if they could do it. I'm pretty sure all their consoles except N64 to GameCube, I guess. They try to keep it backwards compatible. Wii could play GameCube, Wii U could play Wii. Switch couldn't do any of that because they switch stuff again. So so hopefully they keep it the same as with this. So I'm happy that they're keeping backwards compatibility, because like I said, very important. And the Switch, like I said, has a very, very strong library of games. So really happy Nintendo isn't shitting the bed for that. All right, so more Nintendo news. So again, they just announced random shit. Nintendo Music announced for Android and iOS. So this is included with Nintendo Switch Online. So you need Nintendo Switch Online to actually access this. But basically, this is Spotify for Nintendo Music. So okay, so I have a lot of things, and I actually have been using it to test it out and stuff. First I wish it was just on Spotify, right? I wish Nintendo just put their stuff on Spotify like any other gaming developer. There's a lot of game developers that put their stuff on Spotify. Persona put all their music on there. Final Fantasy puts all their music on there. I think even HAL Laboratories puts their stuff in there. I think Robobot was on there or something. But it's just more convenient to have everything in one place. But fine, they want to do that on Spotify, fine. But there's been a lot of controversy with them not listing composers and stuff. I know that's apparently a commonplace thing in Japan.
Yeah.
To not have the composers. It still feels a bit weird because you do. I personally like to know who's making the music and stuff, so you could appreciate who's making the music for these games, because I feel like gaming music is pretty underrated in terms of like people actually appreciating it a lot of time. You know, I'm not gonna say like, oh, this is like real music or whatever. Like, I mean, it's all real music, right? Like if someone makes music, it's real music, right? Just don't discredit anyone else's like, you know, musical taste or whatever, right? But I still would like to see who's making the music so I could, you know, respect that person. Like, you know, there's like a lot of composers I like because they're pretty open about like what music they're making for games and stuff. So I would like to know that. So Nintendo's app doesn't do that. But my major complaint is they're still doing this drip feeding model where it's like, oh, we're gonna add like a game like every week or something.
Yeah, every Friday, new music Friday or whatever. But it's like Mario Wonder.
Yeah, and like I feel like if this app had a bigger library of games, I would be okay with this. But it's like very tiny. There's like one GameCube game, which is Metroid Prime. There's like one Wii thing, which is Galaxy, which is a good pick, but still, like just Galaxy's there. For the Switch stuff, you got more. You know, you got like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. You got like Pikmin 4 and stuff. But it's a very tiny list of games. But I will say at least the app is very well made. You know, it's just Spotify, but if you click on a game, you could kind of like separate it by different categories. So for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, for example, you could categorize it by battle music. So it plays all the battle music either from trainers or from boss fights or whatever. You could sort it by like just routes and stuff. So you kind of like more of the background, like relaxing music and stuff. So I think all that stuff is really neat. Like Splatoon has a really cool one too, where it kind of like separates it by like the made up bands in that game, which is really neat. So like the way the app is set up is very nice. Like, it is very high quality. I just wish there was like more games on it. And obviously the thing with the composers, like, you know, that's more of Nintendo's thing, but it would be nice to know who's actually making the music and stuff. But for me, it's just like the total lack of games. Like there's no Wind Waker. There ain't no like Twilight Princess. There's no like other Mario games or anything. Like it's a very tiny list. So hopefully they can add more music faster than they're doing right now. But as of right now, it's pretty good. I just wish I had more stuff, you know? So
yeah, I just realized that we forgot to put Nintendo Alarmo on here, but anyways.
Oh yeah, the Alarmo. But I don't know. I don't really. I heard from some people saying it's kind of just like it's kind of a waste of $100.
Yeah, it's an alarm clock, but Nintendo Music, I mean, this is the most Nintendo thing that they've ever done. Instead of putting it on the apps that everyone is using, they're like, you know what, we'll just make our own. And if you have Switch Online, it makes that service a lot better. Obviously, Switch Online is already sort of like a bare bones system, sort of service, I should say. But yeah, you know, I think them having one place where you can listen to Nintendo music is great. Obviously, people who have been listening to them on like YouTube or whatever are now like, finally, an app for me, you know, kind of thing.
My only concern is they're going to start copyrighting like those YouTube videos. And if they start doing that and there's no alternative, like because you don't upload their music to their app, I'm like, oh, well, that sucks ass, right? So hopefully they don't do that. I haven't seen that yet. So hopefully just let people keep uploading stuff onto YouTube. Because, you know, it's obviously easier to play it through an app if you're driving or whatever than have it on fucking YouTube or whatever. So, hopefully Nintendo doesn't go on big copyright strikes, but this is also Nintendo we're talking about, so it wouldn't surprise me that they do start doing this because, like, oh, buy the app instead or whatever. So
yeah, you know, hopefully that they are able to add more music, you know, sort of make it more like, you know, Apple Music, Spotify, those kind of apps, because obviously, you know, this is everything from scratch. They gotta, you know, sort of take things that those apps are doing and then put it into their own thing. But yeah, you know, I'm not a big sort of, I guess, like gaming music guy, unless we're talking about Sonic here. You know, I don't really spend my free time listening to like Mario, Animal Crossing music. You know, I recognize that it is good music. You know, it's nice and chill, relaxing. Obviously, everyone knows like the sort of like Wii Shop music and all of that other stuff because of memes or whatever. But yeah, you know, hopefully that like I said, they just add more stuff a lot faster, a lot quicker. Maybe, you know, add one new game every other day or something like that, you know, and then keep it consistent on that one Friday where they add, you know, a bunch of stuff. But yeah, you know, Nintendo Music is the most Nintendo thing they've done in a while.
Yep.
Now let's talk about Mario and Luigi Brothership. So the reason why we are talking about it here is because there has been a lot of discourse online surrounding the review scores and sort of the Metacritic and all this other stuff. Obviously, there were a lot of people that came out and was like, yeah, this is like a 8, 9 out of 10, you know, like this is like a return to form. But obviously one of the biggest gaming outlets, especially within the US IGN, gave it a 5. The reviewer, Logan Plant, no attack against him, but he is a big fan of these RPGs, a big fan of Nintendo in general. And, he just found that there were a lot of flaws with the game or whatever. So, I watched his review. I read most of his review as well, just to sort of get to like the nitty gritty of it. And yeah, it seems like that there's like a lot of flaws and a lot of problems with the game that he just did not like, which is fair. I think that, as a game critic myself, if you will, I recognize that everyone has a opinion on a certain game. And I know that it is important for us as these reviewers to sort of get our honest opinion out there. Even though we are given something for free or early access, we cannot sugarcoat it. Even if it is fucking Nintendo out here who's giving us, early access to Mario and Luigi, we got to be honest. If we're like, yeah, like the game doesn't perform the best, or like we are not a fan of how Luigi is sort of just like a NPC that you just control with like a click of a button. Me personally, I guess before I played, like the first 2 hours of it, I was like, okay, yeah, like these are all valid criticisms. I watched, I think Nintendo Life's review as well, and I think I read a couple of other people talking about the game, and yeah, like some people are loving it, some people, or I guess only really Logan over here is the only one that's really critical about it, from what I've read. But yeah, I mean, it's not a perfect Mario RPG, is what I'll say, and this is coming from someone who hasn't really played and finished one ever since the original Bowser's Inside Story. So take my opinion for what you will.
So for me, I've also been reading, that review, other reviews. I've been seeing a lot of talk on Twitter, on Reddit, and all that stuff. I've been reading a lot of stuff what people think about this game. And, I'm a little bit behind you. Like, I haven't gotten the hammers yet or anything like that.
Yeah,
but
you're probably like one island behind me, which is
I'm I'm up to the island when you get the hammers. But, I will say that there's things I do agree with and things I don't agree with in terms of these reviews. I don't really agree with the tutorials being too bad. If you actually like look back at Bowser's Inside Story, or especially Dream Team, the tutorial was almost like suffocating in those games. Like the game stops you, they explain it. They're like, all right, now press A on this time and do that. With Brothership, I actually feel like tutorials have been very quick and easy. Like the game is like, okay, this is how you jump on an enemy. And then it's like, all right, goodbye. Like it doesn't really waste your time like the other games did. Mm-hmm. So I don't really know where that complaint was coming from. I also don't find the performance like disastrously horrible. Like,
yeah,
the way he was
just like put it into perspective. Like I feel like every first party Nintendo game that I played over like the past few years, flawless, literally nothing wrong with it, no stutters or anything. This game, there are a few instances where like you'll see like certain textures pop in like very slightly, or like the sort of game stutters a little bit, but it's not like as egregious as something like, I guess, like Sonic
Scarlet
Frontiers
Violet,
or something like the Pokemon games or whatever. Like it's not like super obvious. Like you really have to be like looking out for it or like really paying attention to it, because like obviously like reading the IGN review, I was like looking out for that stuff, and that sort of like made it so like I'm playing the game kind of differently, or like noticing certain things differently. But
like, so I really don't think performance is like too bad. Again, maybe it gets worse later, I'm not too sure. I only played like an hour and a half of the game. But I personally, I really liked Echoes of Wisdom, right? Like the new Zelda game that came out. But the performance issues were apparent right away. Like the game like chugs a lot. There's a lot of things going on. It's like really pretty awful in terms of performance, that game. This game, I really haven't like noticed too many frame drops or anything like that at the moment. The only thing that has been bothering me is the load times. Like getting out of a fight and going into a fight does take like a weirdly long amount of time. So that I could tell is going to be very annoying by like the last bit of the game. And other complaint I actually do agree with. I do think like the dialogue has been very bland and like very like safe. Like, I think like the other Mario and Luigi games, right away they have like a lot of charm to them. They're very funny. And I do think Mario and Luigi in this game are good. Like, I like their humor, I like their facial animations. Like that's all good. But I think all the NPCs really don't have like any bite to them yet. Like they are very bland. Like just like do this for me or do that. I'm like, okay. And that's about it. Like they don't really have a lot of charm to them. So I do agree like the writing so far hasn't been like super like engaging or anything, not like Thousand Year Door or again Bowser's Inside Story or anything like that. So I do agree with that. I also think the pacing, because I heard this game is very long. Like I heard it's like too long. I think the perfect length for a Mario RPG is probably like 20-ish hours. Like, because, they're not like super deep story-wise and they're not super deep combat-wise. The reason why I could play things like Xenoblade or Persona for so long is because, those games' battle systems are a lot more complex. The stories are a lot more complex. There's a lot more things going on. For Mario and Luigi, it's more of a light-hearted adventure, right? And the combat's meant to be a bit more simple. That's kind of why Dream Team was a bit of a drag because that game was like 40 hours or some shit. Like Dream Team was very long. So I heard this game is longer than that. So I heard it just does drag a lot. But again, I haven't really played that far to really get that opinion. But I will say the pacing in terms of combat, it's very weird because I've only been able to jump for like an hour and a half. That's the only move I've been able to do. I feel like you should have a hammer by this point. I know I'm getting it, but you should have a hammer way earlier, and you should have at least one bros attack at this point. Like I heard you don't get a bros attack until like you fight the first boss, which is like 3 hours in. I feel like that's pretty bad. Like, because, you know, bros attacks are like the most fun thing about these games, and every game usually starts you with at least one, like right off the rip. So I feel like this game definitely should have had you had a bros attack from the start, because, you know, that's the fun thing about these games. It's bros attacks and finding new enemies to fight, because they all feel like fun little mini games to do. And I feel like not having one this early in the game does kind of hurt the combat a bit. But, you know, from what I've played, the combat is fun. Like, I do like just jumping on an enemy does feel very weighty and fun. But yeah, you should definitely have more combat options than what you do from the start, you know? So
yeah, I definitely agree with that. You know, I was definitely, you know, right before I got the hammer, I'm like, where am I going to get this hammer? Because I see these boxes, I see these things that I could hit. I'm like, I want to hit them. I want to explore more of what's going on here, but I can't do that because I don't have a hammer. And yeah, you know, with the whole, I guess, like, the game's pacing in terms of like introducing things within combat and sort of how slow it is. I think Nintendo, obviously, they are very much good at like playing things safe. I think here they played it a little too safe. I'm not sure if it's because they didn't have a lot of confidence going into a brand new Mario and Luigi game where it's like, we haven't had one of these in like years. So they're like, okay, like there's going to be a lot of people who have never played a Mario and Luigi game before. So let's like easily like spoon feed them stuff like very, very slowly, which was probably the wrong call, because now it's like, you know, like I'm moving on to I think like the third or fourth island, and I'm like, all right, yeah, like I'm still like hitting A and B like over and over again, and like it's fun, it's cool, but I think that there should be a little bit more to the combat to really get players like in the know and really like hook them in terms of like what this game really has to offer. Because like 3 hours into like the first boss, that's when you get the first bros attack. I think that's a little egregious, and I think at that point you would be like level 7 or 8 if I'm guessing, you know, something like that.
Yeah, I definitely feel like they should have like give you at least a bros attack like earlier on, because you know, I feel like the pacing right now does feel a bit dire in terms of that stuff. And you know, I like, it doesn't bother me as much, but I could tell it could really start hurting people that are not used to like slower starts of games. So definitely wish they could fix that. And I guess the other big elephant in the room is how they handle Luigi in this game. So in this game, Luigi is not like attached to you, right? Like in the other Mario and Luigi games, he's like right behind you. You press A and then you press B for Luigi. You know, it's always been like that simple. For this game, Luigi's like really separated from you. Like he almost feels like an NPC in this game. Yeah. And you know, they kind of do this thing called Luigi logic. So if you press L, Luigi, if he grows green, you could press L and he could do a bunch of different stuff in the overworld. And you know, that could lead to some pretty fun stuff, but it is pretty different compared to the other games where Mario and Luigi kind of feels like one character, and this one they definitely do feel like two different characters like doing their own thing. Like he almost feels like a weird Pikmin you could control. Like it's really weird. It's different, but I don't know if I don't hate it or anything, but it definitely is a thing that people aren't really like vibing with either. Like people don't like that Luigi feels like this weird entity that you can't control. Another complaint I've been hearing, this one's really nitpicky, but I do understand it. When you select commands for Luigi in battle, you don't press B to select his stuff. It's A, yes. Which is very weird. Because I feel like it actually confuses the players more, because as soon as you're done pressing A, I press B to begin with to do his commands
to do his attacks. And I always mess it up. I mess it up like I think 3 or 4 times at this point, where like I hit A on Luigi and then it tells me to press B to like do his attack. I'm like, oh my God, I messed up, because it's like switching my brain around, because it's like obviously, you know, with the past Mario and Luigi games, everything with Mario's A, everything with Luigi's B, and then it's like, okay, within combat you were selecting things with Luigi on A, but you're still doing the actions with B. That, like you said, maybe a little nitpicky, but I can totally understand why people are like frustrated or like upset with that. Me personally, I'm kind of in the middle, maybe a little bit more towards upset, because it does really confuse me and mess me up when I am doing like the combos and whatnot.
Yeah, it's definitely like a weird change they didn't have to do. It just feels like one of these things where it's like they wanted to make the game more simple for people, but like I feel like they just overcomplicated things by trying to make it more simple, if that makes any sense. Like the Luigi logic and selecting things with A instead of B for Luigi, like it just feels like they're trying to fix problems that weren't really problems to begin with. But again, besides all of that stuff, I am having a good time with the game. The last Mario and Luigi game I have played fully was Dream Team, and that was like 11 years ago, right? Like I haven't played Paper Jam. I didn't play the 2 remakes. I wanted to play the Superstar Saga remake before this because I got in too many games, but there was other games that I really wanted to get to, so I didn't have time for that. Yep. But I haven't really played a Mario and Luigi game since Dream Team came out. With Dream Team, this game kind of has like a lot of similar problems with that game. Like I still like Dream Team, and I'm liking Brothership, but they both have slow starts. They have like a bunch of other weird stuff going on that isn't like much like the other games. So I can see why people are starting to feel like this more. It's like more of like a 7 out of 10. Like I don't think it's a 5. Like, I think a 5 is pretty harsh for this type of game. But I do agree with the IGN reviewers with some of his complaints. Not all of them, but I do agree with some of them. And I think a lot of people on Twitter and some other places I've been reading have been feeling the same way about the game. Like it's good, and I'm happy the series is back. And I would rather have this than something like the newer Paper Mario games where they're not even RPGs anymore. Like I'm happy this is still like there's attack numbers and you can level up. That's great. So our hope for it is that this game sells pretty well, and then the new developers, I think it's the people that made this, the people who made Octopath 1 and 2 made this. I hope they could learn from their things from this game, and then if they do make another Mario and Luigi game, they take all these aspects and kind of make a better one later. But again, we're very early still, so we'll see. I heard the game gets like a lot better once you're like more into it, but I'm still enjoying it though. Like I think the game is great. Like graphically, I think the game looks really good. I think all the characters are like really fun. Like they all look very well animated and stuff. I'm having a good time exploring the world. I'm having a good time with the combat. I just wish like more opened up to you more early, and hopefully the writing gets a bit more exciting later on. So that's really my main issues with the game.
Yeah, I hope that these developers, like you said, are able to learn from their mistakes. It's a lot of tiny things. It's a lot of small things that they probably didn't know about from the other Mario and Luigi games. They're like, oh, okay, like that is like important to the players. We're like, yeah, Luigi is B. He's always controlled with B. Like that is like a very important thing. But having him be like, I guess more so like a NPC where like you sort of just like command him and he does his own things. I think I kind of like it. I don't know. I think I'm definitely like in the minority in this, where it's like, within the Mario and Luigi games, it's very much about them two, like together. And obviously what is called Brothership, you want that even more so within that sort of gameplay story narrative. But just having him be like this sort of NPC that you control, or like he does his own actions, he jumps on his own and all this other stuff. I think it makes the game move a lot smoother, because imagine on like every single platform you have to hit A and B together. There was probably some sort of like game development constraints that they probably couldn't do it where it's like seamless and streamlined like it was on the DS, even though we are on like better hardware. But yeah, personally, I'm kind of a fan of it. Obviously, I'm only like 2 hours in, so maybe my opinion will change next episode. But yeah, Mario and Luigi Brothership, liking it so far. I hope that, we are able to get more of these Mario RPGs. Obviously, within this year alone, we got 3 of them. We got this one, we got Thousand Year Door, and then we also got Mario RPG, which was last year, close to the end of last year.
It's like a 12-month period. Yeah,
pretty much within the past 12 months, we've gotten a lot of banger Mario RPGs, and hopefully we get more on the Switch too. But yeah, with the whole IGN reviewer giving it a 5 out of 10, that is his score. That is what he sort of saw within the IGN rating scale, and that's what he gave it. I think that is fine. That's fair. Obviously, people look at 5s and think that like the game's instantly bad. 5 on IGN's rating scale, I believe, just means mediocre, which is like slap dab in the middle. Like there's some good things about it, there's some bad things about it. So yeah, I just wish that people weren't so hung up on scores and actually read like what the reviewers said. Like me and you, Damian. We actually like went in there, read it, watched the video, and we actually got an idea of like what his complaints were, but also the things that he also liked. So yeah.
Yeah, I think people are mostly hung up because I don't think IGN really, like, that's what their grading scale says, but they always give, like, games that are, like, 5s, usually 7s. So I think people were kind of caught off guard that they actually used the 5 how it was, like, probably meant to be used, because IGN doesn't really do that. So that's probably what's, catching a lot of people off. But, enjoy the game. I think the game is good. If you're a Mario and Luigi fan, you probably will like this game to begin with. I'm enjoying it. I just, there's some problems with it, and that's about it. So, read the reviews, try to absorb absorb what you can. Like as what I said in the past few, in the past podcast, like, always read a bunch of reviews, see what people are saying, and form your own opinion on that. And if you want to put your money down on it, then buy the game, right? So I think you should always do your due diligence as a consumer to like read and watch a bunch of reviews before spending your money, and not just hinge on one review, right? And don't look at just the number. Like the number is like, it's a good gauge at a glance, but always read what the reviewer is saying, so yeah.
Yeah, and this is, this is probably bad for me to say as a game reviewer, but I don't normally look at reviews before I play a game because obviously I'm going to talk about it myself. So this is the first time where I went into Mario and Luigi Brothership and actively was like looking at reviews, seeing what people were saying. Even though I was already going to buy the game, I understand that like, reviews are obviously very helpful, very important to help people that are maybe on the fence, maybe don't exactly know if they want to spend $60 on this brand new Mario and Luigi game. And you know what? Hopefully this IGN review, for better or for worse, because there was like 1,000 replies under that IGN tweet, and I was like, oh god, I hope like he doesn't get too much flack for it, because obviously that's his opinion, that's what he thinks the game is, and that is very valid. So hopefully by next episode me and Damian are both able to finish, and we'll give our full thoughts on that when we can.
Yep. Alrighty, so next we got some Marvel stuff. So Tom Holland's Spider-Man 4 is going to be confirmed for July 24th, 2026. So it's going to be releasing in between the two Avengers movies, so between Doomsday and Secret Wars. It's going to be directing by Dustin Daniel Creighton? Yeah. How do you say that?
Yeah, so, he's also the director of Shang-Chi, so it's going to be very exciting about that.
Yeah. Also, this is going to be Tom Holland's movie with Christopher Nolan is also releasing in July, so he's a busy boy. So we're going to be seeing how that works. So obviously, we still don't know like the full direction of where this movie is going to be taking place. At first it was supposed to be a street level movie, and then they're switching it to more multiverse story. So we're going to see how that works. I mean, judging from what Doomsday is going to be about, is probably going to be a multiverse story, just from like what we know about that movie. But who knows? Like, we won't really know until the first trailer drops, which probably won't be until next year. Right now it's all just like speculation on what the fuck is going to be. So
yeah, whenever those first set photos leak or whatever sort of leaker says, we're going to learn about this movie closer to when it comes out, obviously. But I'm excited that they are, first off confirming that Destin is actually directing it, because obviously he did a fantastic job with Shang-Chi and sort of like the action within that movie. So I wonder how that's going to play out within Spider-Man 4. Obviously, the fact that it is releasing in between the Avengers movies, because Marvel always has to have a reason why this movie's coming out and sort of its place within the MCU, just like what we talked about last time when Tom Holland was on that podcast. He was like, yeah, when it comes to like the MCU machine, you gotta like figure out like how does this fit here and how does this fit there, etc., etc. So the fact that it is slap dab in the middle of the Avengers movies, it could be a multiverse thing more than likely. I don't see it being like a sort of Ant-Man 2 situation where it came out in between those Avengers movies and it took place before the first Avenger, where like in the post-credit scene we see pretty much the entire family get snapped away or whatever. So I doubt that's gonna happen. I mean, if that is what happens, I think that would be a great. I think that giving Tom Holland a little bit of breathing room with his Spider-Man, sort of his first movie back after that ending within Far From Home, to sort of give him a little bit of time to like figure out like what the hell is he doing as Spider-Man? What is his sort of life now that no one knows who Peter Parker is? But yeah, I'm very excited for that, and seeing him in more movies is going to be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Again, first Spider-Man with 4 movies, right? So
yes, 4 official movies starring in. So that's gonna be pretty cool.
Yep, first time.
So now let's talk about this random thing that Marvel did. They did a look ahead for the Disney Plus shows, which included a bunch of first looks at all of these Disney Plus projects, including Daredevil Born Again, which I'm very excited about. So I'll just go through the list here and give you guys release dates one by one. So first up, the animated series Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, January 29, 2025. Daredevil Born Again, March 4th, 2025. Ironheart, June 24th, 2025. Eyes of Wakanda, a little animated, I believe, 4-episode mini series, August 6th, 2025. Marvel Zombies, October 2025. 2025, and then finally Wonder Man in 2025 December. So yeah, I mean, this was a pretty cool sizzle reel. This was our first official look at a lot of these shows, including Daredevil Born Again, even though those trailers have been leaked online over and over again. It is great to see this stuff in like actual like high quality images. So yeah, obviously I'm very excited to see Daredevil Born Again, because it really does look like it is going to be a spiritual successor to the Netflix show, but also to give credit to all of these other projects. I'm kind of excited for Ironheart, because I want to see how that character does outside of the Wakanda Forever movie, because I think that she was introduced very, very well within that movie. So I want to see how she could handle her own within her own series. And also Wonder Man. I had no idea that was even coming out, but I know that actor is pretty good. I think he was in Aquaman. So I'm curious to see how he does within the MCU.
Yep, and I got a time limit to finish Daredevil now. So, I mean, again, I'm pretty close to finishing it. There's a lot of other shows that are coming out during this time. So, but once all this flood of new shows and games come out, I would definitely go to watch Defenders and then finish up Daredevil in time for Born Again. Because just from those clips, I'm like, yeah, it's good. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. But I guess we'll move on from that and talk about Agatha all along. We're going to talk about episodes 6 through 9 in particular, but also just like the series as a whole. We're going to talk about spoilers, all that good stuff. So if you don't want to listen to that, just skip ahead to our Life is Strange double exposure discussion or leave. I'm not going to keep you here. So yeah, let's talk about Agatha all along. So first up, just like overall, just like how are we feeling about this MCU show? Me personally, I think that it's definitely like a pretty good project, all things considered, because really when it was coming out, no one really had any expectations for it. Many people were like, we're gonna skip this one, but honestly, like this was some really, really good television. I think that this is the first MCU sort of project after their whole, like, I guess like the first phase, if you will, of like MCU stuff, where they're like, okay, yeah, like we'll actually treat this as like a TV show and not like a sort of like big budget movie. Like they actually have like a showrunner and sort of like writers and sort of actually have like a good idea of like where the start, where the end is, and sort of like what each episode in between is going to be about. Because every single episode, I guess starting with episode 6, sort of explaining like what happened between William Kaplan to Billy Maximoff, sort of how all that stuff happened. That was like a great backstory episode, and then leading into the finale where Billy and Agatha might be looking for Tommy now. Who knows?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's because like I said last time we talked about this, I don't know, it's because my expectations were like very low for this show. But no, I ended up really enjoying this show. Like I thought it was very creative. I really liked the witch theming of the whole thing. I think a lot of the sets and costume designs were very creative, like from all the witches trials being like saw traps or like, escape room type deals. Like I thought that was really fun to see how they got out of each trial. Obviously the extended lore of, Agatha and what happened to Wanda and like her kids or whatever. Like, I think that stuff was really neat as well. Obviously, we learned a lot more about that in episode 6. I will say that, it does get a bit weird towards the end, but like, I'm like, okay, I'll kind of pulls together at the last episode because I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And I'm like, okay. So, yeah, like, they go more into like how, Wanda's kids, like, I guess they weren't technically real. So like once the anomaly bursted, William Kaplan like died in that car crash, so then Billy's soul took control of his body. At least that's what I'm taking out of this whole thing, because he died at that car crash, so then he found a new host to go into. So I thought, the way the show connects to just WandaVision really, and I guess Doctor Strange, I thought it did it very well. I feel like there's a lot of MCU stuff that feels like very forced. Like they're like, all right, this has to connect to this, so we have to find a way to do it. Like this, this is always kind of like played as a sequel to WandaVision, right? And I think it does a good job being that sequel to WandaVision. And I personally think the finales and stuff is like a lot better than WandaVision's finale, because, that got a little too crazy, got a little too MCU, right? I think this one still kept with its witch stuff, and there was still like a battle at the end, but it wasn't as crazy as the battle at the end of WandaVision, right? So I felt like it kind of stuck to what it was really strong at, and it did it really well. So yeah, overall, I thought the show was like a lot better than I thought it was going to be. And if anything, it might be one of my, it might be up there in terms of the MCU shows, which I did not expect.
We'll definitely do a tier list before Daredevil Born Again comes out. But yeah, this series, I think it just had a really great sort of timeline of just like really nice dedicated episodes. Like episode 7, I think that might be the highest rated episode from this series on IMDb. Lilia's episode, where it's like she herself is like sort of getting fragments of like what's happening within real time, and then we're also getting that within her backstory. Like we're jumping back and forth, and I think that was such a cool and beautiful way of doing the episode, where it's like, okay, yeah, like we're also going on this journey of like figuring out like what is happening here, because pieces are sort of all over the place. We're not actually told things from point A to point B. It's like A, C, D, E, B, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, that episode was great. And obviously I think episode 9 was also really, really strong. Just getting to know like Agatha and like her backstory and sort of what happened with her son, with Nicholas, and sort of she made a deal with death where it's like, please don't take him away from me. Let me have some time with him. And she did have that time with him, but obviously everything came to an end in that episode.
Yeah, so like, and again, I kind of like they kept Agatha being like an asshole. Like, they didn't really like, didn't make her like a super goody two shoes, like I'm a superhero now type deal. Like, she's doing things as, usually benefits her or whatever. And she has a soft spot, but like she's not like a fully good person, right? So,
yeah.
And, I kind of like the twist where she's the one that made up the Witch's Road. Well, I guess like her son did, but what I'm saying? Like she kind of twisted that song to trap other witches and then like bait them into giving her power. So it was really neat to see that throughout the whole series, where it's like the Witch's Road was always like a scam or whatever. So and she was just gonna kill all those people anyway. So it was kind of neat to see that happen. Plus, Billy was able to basically have the same powers as Wanda, where like he can make, I guess, like his reality into like real life. Like same thing what Wanda did with Westview, and she made it like this whole sitcom safe space or whatever. Like I guess Billy did that on a smaller scale with the Witch's Road, where he's like he made this like thing that made sense to him or what he thought Witch's Road would look like, right? So I thought that was a nice way to tie in the Scarlet Witch's power with Billy's power at the same time in like a creative way. And it was like, if you go back to the series, there's a lot of moments where, yeah, like they show it in that episode, but it's like Agatha is just like, oh, like because of you're doing this and all that shit, but she's being all cryptic about it. So I thought that was really neat as well. So the whole Death thing was cool too. I really like her character design in this, and also bringing in Death too, which is a weirdly big character in the MCU. So no Thanos in this one though. Thanos isn't simping for her in this one. So it was the opposite. Now we got Agatha simping for Death for this one. So I thought that was pretty neat as well. And the guy kissed, even though she fucking died, because kiss of death.
Yeah, the kiss of death. It shows goddamn gay, goddamn lives. What can you do?
Yeah, goddamn broke. So, but yeah, I think overall, I think the show was just a lot of fun. Like it was very creative. I love the witch theme, like I said, and the way it ties in. I know they're making Billy another, like here's another young Avenger type character. I know people are getting kind of sick of that, but I feel like out of all the young Avenger type characters, I actually really do like Billy or William. I don't know what we're gonna call him at this point. And he has like Agatha as like a Force ghost, like Jedi trainer now. Yeah. I think that's a neat thing. And he also has his own mission to find Tommy too. So I wonder if they're going to tie that in to another MCU show, or that's going to be like in a movie or something. Maybe Wanda comes back. I don't really know. But I think all this was really cool to get all that backstory and motivation for, I didn't even think Billy and Tommy were going to get any significance at all. So it was really cool to see them get anything at all. And it was cool to see Agatha kind of evolve as a character. So yeah, overall, like really great show, which I, again, did not expect at all.
Yeah, Agatha all along was the surprise hit for the MCU this year. But let's talk about Life is Strange Double Exposure. There's a lot to talk about with this game. There's been a lot of discourse among the fandom on Twitter, Reddit, etc. Sort of, is this the worst Life is Strange game? Because they ruined Max Caulfield. They ruined her character. So obviously we are going to talk about spoilers. So I got some bullet points here. So first up, Damian, what do you think about the overall game as a whole? Like after you finished the 5 chapters, what were your initial thoughts? I
liked it, but I do agree. The last 2 episodes go fucking crazy in a weird way. I guess it's kind of like how people felt about, I know there's a weird comparison, but I guess to Spider-Man 2, when the last act of that game goes fucking insane, and some people were not a fan of that. I like some of the concepts they bring into the world, I guess, but like I think the way to execute it is very weird. I do agree. Again, depending on what ending you picked in Life is Strange 1, I think the first 3 episodes were really strong. Like I personally really enjoyed the first 3 episodes. I think they did a good job with Max's character if you pick that ending. Again, I'm talking as someone that picked Arcadia Bay. If you
same.
picked the
Same.
So we're both coming from this angle. So I know people that pick this angle are gonna enjoy the game a lot more than if they pick the other ending. But overall, I liked the game. I thought it was pretty good. I think it went a little way too crazy in the last 2 episodes, but overall, I liked it. I think there's a lot of problems, you know, with the narrative and with the gameplay. I don't think it's as good or anything like that, but overall, I think it's good. It's like a 7 out of 10 if I had to give it a score, I guess. So,
Yeah.
but I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, you know, after finishing episodes 1 and 2, you know, and that cliffhanger within episode 2 where it was like, oh shit, it's Max. I was like, yo, what the fuck's happening? Like, you know,
Yeah.
I guess some people thought that was goofy. Me personally, I was like, yo, like that's kind of crazy. Like, what the hell's happening here? And then episode 3, you know, I know you told me from like episode 3 through 5, it did get like a little shaky. Episode 3 was great. I thought that was like,
I like episode 3. Yeah.
I thought that was like a fantastic sort of additional chapter where I think it also introduced like Sophie has like powers and everything like that, and sort of like you know, other people within this world also have powers other than Max, obviously. But you know, me and you were both coming from the angle of save Arcadia Bay instead of save Chloe. So you know, I know the developers wanted to pay respect to both endings and not just have the player go through one of those endings over the other. I think they should have just went with the Arcadia Bay ending because obviously that's a lot easier for them to sort of execute narratively, where it's like, oh, like me and Chloe broke up off screen. I was like, fans are not going to like that. They're not going to like that. Especially because within the Life is Strange media, I've talked about this series a lot. The comic book series is so freaking good in terms of executing that ending where you save Chloe and you see the effects of what happens to Max and sort of their relationship between those two and how she has to go on like this journey to like figure out like what the hell's happening to her. She interacts with like different versions of Chloe. She even interacts with Amber, freaking Rachel Amber as well. And I'm like, okay, yeah, like that. This is such a good comic book series that takes that ending and just runs with it. Like it just goes full force with it. Great. This game, it's like, all right, yeah, we like broke up off screen within like the text messages and like the memos. Like you could see like what led to that breakup. And I watched it on YouTube and I was like, so she thought she was going to use her powers to like undo things if Max said no. I was like, that doesn't really make sense with like their characters, I would say. Cause like, I don't think Chloe would say that. And I don't think Max would do that either. And then Chloe just randomly got up and left and then just went on her own because she doesn't, I guess, feel safe around Max, which is like valid, but at the same time, like these characters wouldn't necessarily do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like you don't go through all of that stuff in Life is Strange 1 and just leave because of that. Like that felt very weird. I agree with you. They should have just picked an ending and stuck with it, which is the Arcadia Bay ending. Like this game was clearly not written in mind with the Chloe ending like at all. You know, as someone that did pick the Arcadia Bay ending, I thought they did a great job writing how Max would feel after all that stuff. You know, her blaming herself or her going through this whole cross-country trip to the other side of the country and like learning about herself. Like, you know, I was reading like the journal entries and the text messages and stuff. I'm like, yeah, all this stuff is like really great. And just how she reflects back on Chloe and Arcadia Bay and stuff. Like, I'm like, all this stuff feels like how I would continue her character from that ending. And I thought they did a great job with that. But in my mind, I'm just like, how the fuck did they do this for the Chloe ending? Yeah. I feel like all this stuff, she'll just sound like a weird baby about it. like she's still alive. You can still say like hi to her, I guess. But like for this one, it definitely has a lot more impact on her character, I feel, if she died. And a lot of the themes later on in this game kind of reflect that and how, you know, you're seeing someone else with powers do stuff and like you're kind of reflecting it on what you would do as a character because you saved Arcadia Bay and not do the selfish decision. So I don't know. I feel like as someone that picked the Arcadia Bay ending, I was very happy with how they've written Max and how she kind of evolves as a character. Like she's not as awkward in this game. Like she's still awkward, but you know, she has a bit more like spunk to her now, probably thanks to Chloe. You know, and just how she evolves with using her powers and how careful she is. So I don't know. I personally really liked how they wrote her with that ending in mind. But if you pick the Chloe ending, I can understand why you would be angry about this game. So
yeah, the developers really could not have their cake and eat it too. Because like my mindset is like, if you do like the dual endings, you have to make it make it 2 different games first up. Like it's gonna be 2 different games, and then at the start, it's like, all right, which ending did you do at the end of Life is Strange 1? Did you save Arcadia Bay or save Chloe? And then you had Chloe there for like a little bit, and then maybe something happens with her. I don't know, because like with the amount of elements that they're trying to do with like Sophie's character and everything like that, I'm like, there's no way you could make it both work, right? Because like I did, like I said, I went on YouTube and I saw sort of like what those Chloe bits were. I'm like, okay, yeah, like I get what they're doing here, but it doesn't feel faithful or really necessary to Max's story compared to saving Arcadia Bay, where like, I was very surprised by how involved the first game was here, because I was like, oh, like they're like really diving into like her grief about like losing Chloe and saving the town and everything like that. I'm like, all right, like this is good Life is Strange shit. Like never within a Life is Strange game have I looked through like the journals, the text messages, all of that like extra stuff so much than this game. Cause I'm just like, okay, I love Max's character. I want to see how they evolve it into this game, Double Exposure. And I'm like, okay, yeah, like this is like some good stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Like I was also like very impressed how much they were like tying into the first game. Like I didn't expect that, because I heard some reviewers said they didn't. But again, it kind of depends on what side you pick, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I always read the journals and I always read the text messages in every Life is Strange game. So, but this one I was very impressed with like all the inner dialogue of like Max's character, especially from the journals. I thought a lot of the early ones were like really well done in terms of writing for like how she was feeling and stuff. And a lot of the text too is like really cool to see Joyce like texting you and stuff.
Yeah.
And, you can see like Victoria acting like a shithead still. Like I thought that stuff was pretty neat. Like I thought all that stuff was really good, and how it really plays into like the whole narrative as a whole, of her like, trying to find herself, and like, she finally finds a place to settle down, and then all this weird shit happens again. So she's blaming herself and all that. So like, I don't know. For me personally, I thought they wrote Max pretty well in this game, in terms of that. But again, it's hard to say that with like the other side of the fandom feeling like they got like shot in the face, right? Because it's just like you said, it had to be 2 different games, like, or just like pick an ending. Like this Chloe is always dead. Like she's always gonna be dead, and then there's no say like. People would have been mad. Like people would have been mad it was only one ending picked. But I think this pisses off more people than make happy, because at least they know what to expect, right? So yeah,
because like this is like a grade A scenario where like you can't please everyone. Like you have to. There's a crossroad where you have to pick. Like, do we allow both endings, or do we just choose one? And then they went with, we'll just have the player choose both of them, and then we'll try to write around it. And obviously the other side of the coin, where Chloe's still alive in that universe, is like, okay, yeah, like it's very hard to write and sort of make it make sense for Max's character here. But yeah, I guess we'll talk about Sophie, because like obviously like leading up to this game's release, it was like they're kind of just like retreading the same territory. Oh my God, Max's friend dies, and then it's like, oh wait, but like Sophie's like an actual character here, because we could go into the other timeline and sort of talk to her and get to know her. Then it's revealed that she is a shapeshifter. So yeah, instantly, like after I finished the game, I was like, oh, she's just a parallel to Max, like, with the whole Maya Okada thing. I was like, okay, yeah, like she's literally just Max, but she's using her powers for sinister ways. And I was like, okay, yeah, like that's pretty cool. I thought that was like such a cool thing to do. Yeah. Obviously, a lot of the Life is Strange player base, because after I finished the game, I saw like how many people rejected her. It was a lot less than people that accepted her. I was like, are you guys like reading the dialogue? Like, what is going on here?
Dude, I felt the exact same way. I rejected her. I'm like, at first I'm like, okay, so she probably learned from that whole experience. We went through like the whole time tornado again. Yeah. She probably learned her mistakes to not use her powers so recklessly and selfishly. And then she was like giving like a villain monologue at the very end. I'm like, what the hell?
Like we have more control over our lives than other people. Like, what is happening?
Yeah, I was like, holy shit. I'm like, no, I'm not going to accept that. And I was shocked to see like we were in the minority. It was like 30%, like 40% of people rejected her, and like 60% like accepted that. I'm like, what do you mean accept that? I feel like to me, like that doesn't make sense. I mean, it's kind of how I feel about the original Life is Strange, where like, I think letting Chloe died. Letting Chloe live doesn't make as much sense than letting Arcadia Bay get destroyed, because I feel like it kind of goes against all the character growth we all went through. But again, that's whoever's opinion, that could be your opinion. For this game, I definitely feel like if you picked our Arcadia Bay ending, why the fuck are you accepting her thing? Like you know what happens when you abuse this power. Like, weird shit happens. So that's why I said no. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm not going to accept your proposal. But I do like the, having her as a parallel to Max, and having just like, I guess someone with powers also being played against you, especially like shape-shifting powers. Like, they kind of played a bit into it in this game where some of the characters were acting off. And honestly, I didn't expect the shape shifting shit. Like, when you run into Amanda in your school, I'm like, why she's acting really weird. I thought it was just some weird. I thought it was gonna angle with the parallel like people or whatever, like, they were from different the different timelines or whatever. But having her be the shapeshifter the whole time, like, oh, that was pretty clever. And I think that power is really cool in contrast to yours and how you like interact with stuff. I think they could have done more with that. It could have been like a fucking Among Us like situation. I think that would have been cool if they played more into it. But yeah, I think having a foil for Max in like that sense is pretty neat actually. As long as it doesn't get like too MCU-y, which we'll talk about I guess at the end of, with the final words that show up. But I think like having that someone else with powers hindering you, I think that's pretty neat actually. So yeah,
I definitely liked Safi as a character and sort of how they made that setup be like, okay, yeah, like she is the opposite of you, and sort of she is going against you, and now it looks like she's like trying to like build this team or whatever, because it looks like Diamond also has powers or whatever.
Yeah, so making the Thunderbolts,
is another thing where it's like there's only one ending for the game, which I was surprised because like I looked up like Life is Strange double exposure endings, and this was the only ending. Obviously there's like slight differences like depending on like what you do, like whether or not Gwen stayed in town or she actually ditched it. I think mine ditched town, like she just left. I was like, all right,
yeah,
more power to you.
Too.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, the fucking school fucked you over, like just leave, whatever, start your whole new life. But yeah, like there's like slight differences within like the narrative that way, but it all leading to like the same ending obviously feels a little bad. And a lot of people are saying like the game kind of wastes your time because then it's like Max Caulfield will return. And I'm like,
yeah,
all right, so they're just setting up for another sequel. And that definitely rubs me the wrong way because I'm like, every single Life is Strange game up to this point, even like Life is Strange 2, even though I don't really like that game as much, they're all self-contained. They all have one story, a beginning and an end, or endings, and you could see that journey through. This game, it's like, okay, you got a beginning, and then I guess you're at like the halfway point, because I guess they're going to make another game if they are greenlit that, because my theory is that like the Square Enix execs are like, well, fans love Max Caulfield. We got to like milk this shit, like we got to like pump out a second game. Because obviously a lot of people were also complaining about the Ultimate Edition being $30 where you get like a bunch of skins and then cat missions. And that's it at this point. Because like obviously you paid for that for like the 2 weeks early access for the first 2 chapters. But right now it's just $30. You get skins and then cat missions, which is like, I think like 10 minutes of gameplay or something like that. Like it's not even like that long. So, Square Enix is definitely, churning certain things out there to like make more money for them.
Yeah, like the whole, I think that's kind of my problem with the game in general. I guess I kind of want to talk about like the gameplay of it a bit. I feel like the choices were really like didn't matter at all in this game. Like like a lot of them felt like a lot of the big like the Life is Strange thing was like when you have to pick the two things. A lot of those options are like felt very weak in this game. Like a lot of them were just like I won't do that, or it's like it's kind of obvious what to pick, or it doesn't even have like a major ramifications later on like the other games did. Like I felt like the other games felt like a way more stress to pick those things. This game, like a lot of the ramifications weren't really like that like impactful to begin with. And it kind of goes into the game feeling very small. Like, I don't mind the runtime. Like I think the 10-hour runtime, that's whatever. That's fine. Yeah. Because, I don't want a Life is Strange 2 situation where it's like 20 fucking hours. Like that's way too long. But I do feel like the game is very tiny. Like, I feel like in the first Life is Strange, you go to Blackwell Academy felt huge. You had a bunch of other areas you could explore. This game is just like, you got the bar, a little bit of Caledon, and Max's apartment. Those are like the 3 big areas you go to all the time. And there's some little other areas, like you have like the Overlook or whatever, but like the game feels very like contained, and that kind of hurts the gameplay too. Like I feel like the shifting timelines is cool in theory, but the game basically doesn't do like anything with it. Like it's very like obvious when you have to switch to timelines. Like it doesn't really do a lot of interesting puzzle stuff probably because it's like not that many play spaces in the game. Like you're always going to be in the school or in the bar. So like the amount of puzzles you can have in the game are very limited. So I feel like this power had a lot of potential, but it felt like pretty wasted. Like not as bad as Life is Strange 2 or anything where it's like you basically couldn't use that at all, but it does feel very like lack of potential. Like I still think Life is Strange 1 nailed it the best. Like you could use rewind whenever you wanted and it really impacted the gameplay. This one, I think shifting dimensions and using a little pulse thing didn't really add too much to the game, and it was very obvious when you had to use it. Like I really enjoyed the one where what's his name, Moses was like, yeah, play like don't talking, no one explodes or whatever.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah,
like Paul, like that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But like the game didn't really have a lot of like really unique things you could use with that mechanic, so that felt kind of wasteful. And I think all that stuff led to a very like smallish feeling game. Like I do think they probably, you know, I feel like this game had a budget basically of how much shit they could have in it. Like I think the facial animations and the lip syncing was a lot better than the previous games, but everything else felt like cut back in terms of like environments and characters and like gameplay. So
yeah, this is definitely like the best looking Life is Strange game ever. Like the character models, the facial animations, the lip syncing, like it is all spot on perfect. You know, when you go into like a new cutscene or whatever, like, you know, you'll see stuff like load in or whatever.
They like T-pose for a second. I saw that a couple times. Yeah.
So, you know, that's not like a big thing in my eyes. You know, that's just like them working around like what engine that they have. But yeah, I guess like the power in it of itself definitely felt like there could have been more done here. You know, I did like it being very simple, you know, sort of them just like, oh, that's like, I need this key. I'm going to go to the other side and then just go grab that key and then give it to that person, you know, like that was very, I guess like monkey brain for me where I was like, oh, okay, like this makes sense. But yeah, there's definitely like a lot more that they could have done, like that sort of whole thing of like you trying to tamper with that projector, then Moses being like, all right, I'm kind of just standing here, you know, this is kind of weird. Like, hey, Max, you know, like, I hope you're hearing this or whatever, you know, like, I think that was like a really great gameplay sequence, but that was like literally like chapter 5 or whatever, chapter 4. So, you know, there was definitely a lot that they could have done with it, but I think if they do a double exposure 2, just fucking give her powers back. Because obviously, like, she was like, I haven't used my powers in a while, and then it sort of evolved into that like timeline hopping stuff, and then all of the sudden when she needed to like go into that photo, she could, and I was like, okay, like I guess she has her powers, but like I guess she doesn't want to use them, or like she can't. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I was so confused because I thought she just didn't rewind, because I thought she just lost the power to rewind, because you know, I thought, because at the end when she dies in the Arcadia Bay ending, doesn't she try to rewind but it doesn't work or something?
Yeah, something like that.
I don't know. I thought she just lost the ability to rewind. I forget. Either way, I'm like, oh, she could just do it anyway. She just hasn't done it in forever because, you know, the time tornado or whatever. But she could still Polaroid hop. Like, she could still do that, which was kind of cool to see again. So I'm like, yeah, next game. I know the whole point is that rewinding is bad. Like, don't do it. But it's also really cool gameplay mechanics. So we need to at least have something as engaging and something you could use like that again. I think True Colors really, like, it wasn't as good as Rewinding, but it was very close to like having something that's as impactful to normal gameplay as Rewind. Honestly, I think shapeshifting would have been a really fun power to actually use as like a gameplay mechanic and kind of get information from people and then learn new stuff. Like, in the trailers for this game, I thought the whole thing was like, oh, you confuse people in what timeline you're in. I thought that was going to be more of a mechanic in this game, but it only happens like twice. Like, you could confuse some characters for someone in the living or dead world. And I thought it would have been a way cooler mechanic if that was like way more into the game. Like, if you had to do it a lot, if you had to hop around a lot more and you really get confused of who's where and whatever, I think that would have been really neat to see, but that doesn't really happen like in this game at all. It's just like 2 times or whatever. I think it's one with the podcast girl and then some other person, I forget. So...
fucking Loretta.
Yeah,
yo,
I guess
she did snitch on me. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, she did snitch on me because I'm like, you ain't gonna do it. Watch me. I'm like, oh shit. I guess we could talk about the side characters too. You know, like I said, I think the cast in this game is like a lot smaller than like the first game. You know, the first game, you had like a whole like class worth of like weirdos and classmates and other people. This game is like, what, you got like Moses, Safi, Safi's mom, Diamond. What's his name?
Amanda, Vin.
Vin, and what was the other kid's name? There was another kid with Diamond all the time.
The one with Diamond.
Reggie.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but like a lot of them don't really like are like as in like the other characters in Life is Strange 1 weren't in depth anyway. But there was like a lot more of them to play around with. They're always talking to each other and stuff. Like, it felt more lively. This game definitely has a smaller cast, and I think they're okay. Like, I don't really mind any of them. You know, some of them were a lot more complicated than I thought. Like, I thought Vin was gonna be a very one note like sleazeball type character.
Yeah,
but you know, he had a bit more to him than I thought. So I'm like, that's pretty cool. You know, the 2 kids, you know, obviously they're doing stuff with Diamond, like she's going to have powers or whatever. So that's neat to see these characters are going to be transferring to the next game so to get more development. But yeah, for the most part, I thought they were pretty good. Like, Gwennon was a pretty interesting character as well. So they're not like, you know, they're not as like, I guess, fun as like the Life is Strange 1 characters, but they're pretty okay.
Yeah, and I like that Max is sort of like, you know, she's 28, so she's
Yeah.
able to like interact with like the faculty and like the students in like a very organic way, obviously compared to like Life is Strange 1 where like there's like that dynamic between student to teacher. Now it's like when she's interacting with like all of these characters, including Lucas, who becomes like, I guess, like the main antagonist in like the later half of the story, which is when things get like really weird and really messed up because we don't know everything. We don't know what happened to Maya. We don't know a lot of the things that they're sort of like giving to us because I guess, like I said, they're sort of hiding it for another sequel, which sucks. But I think them pivoting to that storyline was definitely like a weaker note for my opinion, in terms of like why the story kind of falls apart. Because it's like, at one point, I think within chapter 5 or whatever, like they show Max taking that photo with the gun, but I'm like, she's wearing a different outfit. It doesn't really make sense in terms of like why Max would shoot her.
Yeah.
I guess maybe that was like her fucking last option. She was like, Sophie's never gonna change. I have to kill her now or whatever, you know. But yeah, you know, and then obviously Amanda is like the main, I guess, like romance partner that you could choose. Yeah, you could do it with Vin, but I think a lot of people,
no one
including
picked Vin.
yeah, no one fucking picked Vin because Vin, it felt like their personalities were a little too far apart with Amanda. Like she was obviously like very into Max or whatever. And then obviously there was like a whole thing on social media about like consent and sort of like how Max knew that she shouldn't be flirting with this other Amanda, but the other Amanda obviously was still into her because Safi was still alive. And then on top of that, what's it called? She was like being very forward. She was like, well, you didn't show up on the date or whatever. And it's like, is Max supposed to just like, you know, just like refuse her after that, where it's like you already fucked her over once? Are you just gonna keep like just like rejecting her in that way? And then that'll just ruin that relationship, because then at the end when like both timelines come together, she's like, so you just found a different me or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
she calls you out anyway.
She calls you out about it anyways. And like when it comes to, I guess, like real life, like actual like important issues like consent, it's like it's very hard to bring it into a video game conversation where it's like you're never gonna fucking run it into a situation where you're just gonna hop another timeline to meet a different version of this person to try to talk to them. And you know, like when I was writing my review for I guess that section where I'm talking about Amanda and sort of like that whole like consent issue, my girlfriend brought up the point where it's like, yeah, like it's kind of hard to bring up those real world issues within a game like this, where it's like you are hopping between timelines and all of this other stuff. And I brought up the point of like, if it was like Amanda rejected Max at the start before Safi died, because the only reason why she didn't advance things was because Safi died and she realized that like Max was like not in a good state to like be dating.
Yeah.
So she was like, I'm gonna cut this off right here just to like make it be good for both of us. And I think that was obviously like the very correct move to do. Now, should Max go flirt with the other Amanda? I'll leave that up to you, because I obviously did it. You know, I got her to kiss and everything like that.
Yeah.
And then she did face the consequences at the end. But I think that romancing Amanda is fine because fucking more than half of the player base did anyway. So
I mean, I think it would have been like, maybe this conversation could be had if Amanda didn't call you out on it, but she did call you out on it. So I think the game is aware that was kind of like a messed up thing to do, and she's still like kind of unsure about it later. So I think if they didn't do that, then I think there's more of a case that it could be like, yeah, that's kind of weird, because the game still says it's weird and she says it's weird. So I think like, you know, that's something that I fixed like in the second game if they're going to be together still or whatever. But I guess we'll see. Like, but for me, I didn't really see it as too much of it. Like I saw it as like, oh, it's like a messed up thing. But again, they acknowledged it. It's not like they didn't acknowledge that it was like, oh, that was a little weird that you could use your power like that. So yeah, I think it's kind of cool. Also, I didn't really thought about it until she said, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that was a little fucked up. Sorry. I'm like, what time am I in? I'm like, oh yeah, whoops. So yeah, so I could see that being a point. But again, the game brings it up anyway. So yeah.
All right, so last bit before we end off this double exposure conversation. Me and Damian, I guess clearly we both like the game, but there's obviously issues with it. So now we're going to rank it amongst the other Life is Strange games. I believe there's 5 in total. So we're going to rank them from 1 through 5, 1 being the best, 5 being the worst. So I'll go first because I let you start the discussion earlier. So obviously, number 1, I think the original Life is Strange is so hard to beat. Second is Before the Storm. Third is Double Exposure. Fourth is True Colors, and then the last Life is Strange 2. And I know a lot of people might be shocked that me and Damian probably put Life is Strange 2 very low because of the release schedule of that game really fucked us both, where it was like, it really ruined our enjoyment of that game, and we both haven't revisited it ever since.
Yeah. So Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. All right, so for me, Life is Strange 1 obviously is first. Like, I still love the original Life is Strange a lot. Actually, I have True Colors as my second favorite. I actually think that game was a really good successor to the original game. It was still missing a bit of stuff, but I still really liked it a lot. Third, I have Before the Storm. Fourth, Double Exposure, and then last, Life is Strange 2. Sorry, Life is Strange 2 fans. So, you know, for me, Double Exposure, like for me, like Double Exposure to Life is Strange 2 is kind of like this, like it's kind of like a big gap for me. Again, I'm sorry to be such a hater for 2. Like I think 2 does do a lot of things well, but I think it just feels a lot more. I think it's just because of its length and the release schedule, like you were saying. The release schedule really didn't help it at all. We were still doing the episode comes out, wait a few months for the next one. The game was just very long in general. I feel like the game never really knew where it wanted to be and what to do. It never had like an overall story arc, even though like Double Exposure is messy, but I kind of know what it's trying to go for, I guess.
Yeah.
But again, I think Life is Strange is always at its best when it's more like just a mystery with a person having some powers, and then you just kind of do it from there. And I think Life is Strange 1 and True Colors kind of nailed that. Before the Storm, I like a lot just because, you know, it's piggybacking off the first game. But I think those 2 games really got the essence of what Life is Strange is. I do appreciate Double Exposure going to a new direction and trying some new things out. And we're honestly going to have to just wait and see how that really pans out with the next game. But overall, Double Exposure was good. I enjoyed it for what it was. I can understand why people are disappointed in it. I can even understand why people are saying it's the worst one in the series if you picked the Chloe ending. But I think overall, I think we both had a pretty decent time with it.
Yeah, you know, if you wanted to see Chloe in this game, I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. No matter which ending you picked, you know, it's just how it is. I think that if they were ever to bring Chloe back in a new original game, it would have to be some sort of adaptation of those comic books, honestly, or some sort of iteration of those, because it's like you really can't bring Chloe back unless you do that ending, because obviously we've pretty much seen everything from her, you know, obviously before the storm with the whole, you know, sort of introducing Rachel Amber, and then Life is Strange 1, and then it's like that's it, that's all you could really do with her. But yeah, you know, hopefully Double Exposure 2 or whatever the hell that they're going to call it really does clean up this story, because a lot of it is messy, especially towards the end of like episodes or chapters 3 through 5. They really dive into like that supernatural element stuff, which is cool. But I think the way they went about it was a little too much.
It was a little too MCU-y at the end, like like her recruiting Diamond and Max Caulfield will return. That was a little too much for me. Like I'm like, okay, I get it, but we'll see what they're going for in the next game. So
yeah, but is there anything else you'd like to add, good style?
No, I think that's about everything.
All right, so thank you guys for listening to the Travis and Damian podcast, episode 150. We will see you guys 2 weeks from now with another episode.
See ya.